Door Crossing's mechanism was a simple one, which functioned by connecting the entrance to the Forbidden Library to another doorway. Due to that straightforward effect, the versatility of Door Crossing was quite high. She was proud of this outstanding magic. But just like any other magic, Door Crossing was not wholly flawless as well. If its method were revealed, that useful nature could turn into weakness. Because of this, the existence of the Forbidden Library and the effect of Door Crossing had to be kept hidden from outsiders. Indeed, outsiders were not supposed to find out about it. Henceforth, such a situation was inevitable, she thought.
What irony, I suppose.
The moment the door to the Forbidden Libraries was touched, Beatrice herself already understood they would be let inside. That spacious mansion, with its countless doors to choose from, existed, and yet Beatrice had forcibly been guided to a single one. That method was simple. A situation where the other doors could not open would do the trick. The method to halt Door Crossing was to remove any choice of doors to connect to. That task had been carried out with diligence, so the doors that could be opened in the mansion had now been limited to one, and that who had helped in discovering this method must have been her dear brother. She somewhat understood. Being put off balance by this realization was inevitable, because that was a common law for both their existences. But even taking that into account, begrudging her dear brother was not fitting for her. Because of this, Beatrice, without holding any sort of resentment for her brother, instead quietly faced the door that had been opened. "Yo, Beatrice!" Calling out to Beatrice from the other side of the open door, they waved their hand. That voice and attitude, she remembered it. Because of this, Beatrice's body shivered with fear. The face from her memories, and the face now seen in front of her, not every detail seemed to match up. While it was in concordance with the general parts of her memory, they were already almost like another person.
You. Why are you giving me that look, I suppose?
To that dark, dark gaze ahead of her, Beatrice shook her head. Far from improving, it had changed in a way that drew even more revulsion. That rare to find black hair and black eyes remained, yet the hair had lost its luster, while in those eyes that had lost their shine darkened, emotions were dimly revealed. Surrounding those eyes, reminiscent of gloom, were deep, dark circles. Thin and frail cheeks lay underneath, and what could be seen of the fingers displayed a corpse-like pallor. With long, dark clothes wrapping their body, exposure of the skin minimized. Among that united uniform of black, which stuck out was a bright orange scarf. Just that, and that alone, was quite strongly betraying their gloomy impression. Some years had passed. But despite that, too much had changed. How could a human become so different?
Your mood has seriously changed, I suppose.
Same goes for you, then. Is your growth spurt over? Normally, you'd become a little more mature after 2 years had passed. In a blank voice, to Beatrice's words, they replied with a joke. 2 years, was it? If that person said so, then certainly that would be the amount of time that had gone by. Just 2 years. From Beatrice's perspective, it was like the blink of an eye. To humans, especially to the one standing now in her sight, how meaningful would those years be, she wondered. Was that stretch of time so meaningful for that boy, who had been near death, to return for revenge like this? Do you remember, Beatrice? We ate together here.
That memory does not exist, in fact. Eating together with you never happened, I suppose.
At the words of that human, Beatrice crinkled her brows. The two were facing each other in the dining room, on the first floor of the mansion. White cloth draped the table, and in the center seat was that person, asking Beatrice a mysterious question. Yeah, that's right. You wouldn't know that. Yeah, that's my bad. That's just now, it was my bad. It's always my bad.
What happened? No, it's not something that needs to be heard now at this point. In fact,
For a single moment, in Beatrice's heart, hesitation brushed past. But that girl, in the blink of an eye, commanded herself to seal away those unnecessary distractions. And then, toward that troubling human, she pointed her small palm. There, with her sense of pride as the librarian who guarded the forbidden library, or rather, it was her fleeting sense of duty, her desire to martyr herself for her part, a part no one wished upon her.
you might have a righteous right to wish for revenge, I suppose. Even so, Betty has, for Betty, a role to fulfill. In fact, for that,
With strength, Beatrice focused on her own role, glaring at him to suppress any violence from that person. Seeing this, his expression tensed slightly. Something, perhaps an attempt to endure some difficult feeling, could be seen. And at the moment, Beatrice set down her foot. Come now, Beatrice. Wasn't there a contract to protect me? At that moment, in Beatrice was born a lethal hesitation. Contract. At that sound, Beatrice's whole body was pierced with shock, and she grew stiff. And that rigidness did not unravel itself, unchanging, regardless of what Beatrice's will was. Something of the mind was not the culprit. Physically, her movement had been blocked. That was, "Forgive me. With this, you won't be able to move." At Beatrice's side, having risen from the shadows, one person had manifested there. Wearing a disheveled black kimono and biting on a gold-covered Kaseru pipe with the sharp teeth that lined its mouth, there stood a beast man, a tall man with a wolfen visage. He gazed downward at her with slitted eyes, as Beatrice only came up to his waist. Finding no emotion in those small pupils, Beatrice's throat let out a squeak.
that is,
A mysterious shinobi technique of binding shadows, something of the sort. Think of it as a secret art. No need for concern, however. It shouldn't be active for very long. You are my benefactor, after all. Rigid, her body's freedom taken away from her, Beatrice could do nothing but listen to that voice. There was no trembling in the words he spoke, no mistakes in the memories he shared. Slowly rising from a seat and drawing nearer to her side, that person's eyes were dark, but any signs of discomfort could not be found in them. To get revenge was that person's reason for finding this place, Beatrice had concluded. But the glint in that human's eyes could not be perceived by Beatrice as one of revenge. In those black eyes, filled with dim light, some feeling that was ripping at his chest could be found. Back then, you let me run away, and now I'm still here. That's definitely something I wanted to tell you.
If this is your method for that, you really are an aggravating man, I suppose. Definitely aggravating.
I'm sorry about that, but I figured something out, Beatrice. Interrupting Beatrice's jagged speech, he slowly shook his head. Those lips, drawn in the shape of a smile, silently looked down at Beatrice. She thought about it. Had she ever seen this person smile like this? Back then, when she had let him spend many hours in the Forbidden Library? Without recalling Beatrice, he put out his hand and said, "That you and I were of the same kind, that is." The corners of his eyes sagged, and only now did his eyes return to how they had been before, to how the eyes of the boy had first been. The boy had returned to how he had been during those few days at the mansion, before becoming this weird thing. At that time, I had no other path but to die, but you didn't give up on me. You saved me. Even now, how many times do the thoughts of that red glowing sunset come to my mind?
I'm
still thankful for that, Beatrice. Why didn't you kill me back then? Were those words of gratitude or resentment? Regardless, Beatrice had been blindsided by the words spoken by a face displaying both joy and sorrow. So this was the work of her influence. The all-consuming despair in his heart she accepted. As if naturally, that rigid hold on her body, which made her uneasy, came undone, and her outstretched arm dropped down. But in this new-found freedom, her willingness to retreat was already gone. Why it had been returned, it was very easy to understand. Beatrice, I'm thankful for you. I think I probably did like you. Within that time, only you truly drew close to me. Those are my thoughts.
That is the lowest confession.
I don't disagree. At his words, Beatrice replied with empty feelings. And then, in that thinly smiling boy's black eyes, Beatrice saw the truth. The dark emotions within were so familiar to her, she realized. It was a most foul lesion that would nestle in the hearts of many beings, eventually eroding all hope. A disease called despair, within him, within herself, had been quietly nesting. Halibel, a kunai. At that request, the beastman standing by Beatrice raised his eyebrows. Silently looking on at those two's exchange of questions and answers, the beastman now shook his kiseru up and down. You sure? A kunai. Having been once again ordered, the beastman swung his left arm high. Then, a black lump of steel pierced the floor of the dining room with a thud. Crouching down, retrieving it, he left its weight on his palm. It let off a dull gleam, this dark-colored metal, It had a simple form for cutting down life. I'm so happy that you remembered our contract. He did take advantage of it. Such a thought occurred to her. However, that it was truly a fleeting view of a distant joy. He spoke with that kind of voice. To blame him somehow, that feeling did not really appear in her. You are so lovely with those colors. That suits you. At that moment, Beatrice's eyes opened wide and filled with heavy tears. In her blurry sight, that person gently overlooking her was there. As she blinked, tears began to flow down her cheeks. Shedding tears like that, to gaze at his appearance to the end, was what she wished. He had stated that himself and herself were of the same kind. Then there was definitely a reason. There was a reason as to why he was here for her. What she had done at that time, it had greatly affected his life unknowingly. If that was how it had ended up being, then that was how it was going to return to her. If he, now, for Beatrice, was doing this, to try and save her.
Are you...
With a numbly stiff tongue, shivering and shaking, Beatrice weaved speech. Those words that came out like a sigh, when heard by the boy standing right in front of her eyes, caused him to cease moving. He was gifting her the time. For bitter words, or whatever it may be, he would accept everything. That kind of resolve could be seen. To that determination, Beatrice...
Are you... Betty's they?
That question's meaning, you would definitely not understand. That there would be an answer, Beatrice was not even hoping for that much. It was just, if it was her end, if it was that which had come looking for her, she must try to hear it still. Yeah. So with that smiling, grinning appearance, Beatrice's heart was crushed and broken. There was dearness in that smile, kindness in those words, and a blessing in that raised blade. I'm that person. Once more, a large teardrop flowing over that girl's reddened cheeks fell.